Everyone, it's Tammy. Hope you all are doing well. Thanks for joining me. And this is Synergescence, which is all about rethinking the way we approach health and wellness. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Please feel free to subscribe and share, as well as comment. If you've been here before, I really appreciate you being a part of my tribe. Because this really is about thinking differently. And it occurred to me the other day because one of the things that I recently heard Anthony Hopkins actually, I guess it was said that his belief and claim to success is because he harnessed the things that got him into trouble and as a child. Which I thought was kind of cool because each one of us has our own innate, like we're born with these qualities that oftentimes irritate our parents, and because we haven't learned how to self-regulate. And so I thought, you know what, I kind of just started contemplating some of the things about myself. And as I mentioned in my prior video, actually the one right before this, which is on weight, I'm here. I feel like part of the reason why I'm here is actually to challenge what is being called the truth. I mean, in my world, the only real truth is love. Everything else that doesn't align with love is based in fear. But we have this as a species, this idea of truth, that I'm speaking the truth, you're speaking the truth, please tell the truth kind of thing. And so it's really, I kind of feel like I'm here to challenge that, because I have, ever since I was a little girl, have questioned everything. In fact, even when I was raising my children, I told them never to take anybody's word for anything. If somebody told you something and, or you read it in a book, just don't stop there. If it doesn't sit with you, or kind of explore it, go find other things. And the fact is that today on the internet, you can find so much information. And some of it conflicts, some of it doesn't. And so that kind of brings me to this whole purpose of this video, is really beginning to question the facts, what we call the facts. And how a lot of this came into being for this is I saw something the other day, I guess, Earth Sky News, and it was regarding, we've been able to start detecting neutrinos. We can capture neutrinos, but there's this device that they've put in at South Pole, and we're able to trap neutrinos. And, basically the neutrino is something that doesn't have a positive or negative charge. It's neutral, hence neutrino. But these things are like flying through us. I mean, they like zoom right through you just now, and through Earth and so forth. And so these things are like I just thought it was fascinating. It's just really, really cool. I mean, I've heard of them before, but didn't actually hear anybody speak of them. So I kind of just did my little bit of digging around and looking into neutrinos, and I happened to stumble upon this really brilliant question. The question was, if a neutrino detector is primarily water, why can't the human brain detect neutrinos? And of course, our human limitations will absolutely say it's impossible. I mean, we always talk about things being impossible, or this is the way it is, and we really have come into limiting ourselves. And so I got into a conversation about this because that's a really good question. The brain is 73% water. A neutrino detector is primarily water. I don't know what percentage, but it's primarily water. Who's to say that our brain can't detect these? I mean, truth be told, I have had flashes in my eyes for as long as I can remember. And I was told by countless physicians that it was a sign that something was wrong in my nervous system. Why? Why does it have to be something wrong? See, this is the part I'm getting at. The human condition is limited. We only can explain things for as much as we can comprehend it with our brain. If we cannot comprehend it with our brain, then we will do what we can to sum it up. Because I don't know very many people who like to walk around and just go, well, it is what it is. I have heard so many people say, I hate that expression. We won't just accept the fact that things are just as they are. And so, a lot of these things that they're talking about, we do the same thing with, it really, what it rolled into was how we do the very same thing with health. Because, I was told because I have these flashes in my eyes, there's something going wrong in my neurological system. I know that if with autism and people's STEM or hypersensitivity to the light and sound and touch, that's sensory processing disorder, sometimes autism, sometimes it's related to autoimmune disorder. So it's really interesting to see how we try to capture what this is, but then it'll kind of roll into other things. But at the same time, all of these diagnoses are a statement that there's something wrong. It's not possible that the body's actually working. It's actually impossible that the body's working if you're having these signs, like my, sparks in my eyes. I used to call them Tinkerbell. But like I said, who's to say that's not a neutrino? It's just, we have to be careful. I guess that's really what the whole point of this video is we have to be careful regarding what we believe. We have to be open to exploring. And now I shouldn't say we have to, okay? We don't have to do anything. Basically we breathe until we're not here. I guess, people can say, well, we have to do this and we have to do that. I think we're here to learn and grow and love. But beyond that, there's nothing we really have to do or we should be doing. So scratch that. But it would be it might be a kind of a cool step to start exploring things. If somebody tells you, I guess the example I want to give right now, just as I'm thinking about this, is a client that I have. I've talked about her in a couple of other videos. She's 52 years old. She's confined to a wheelchair. She has absolutely no use with her hands. She was originally told she had MS. However, there are no, I guess there are some lesions in the brain. She has been discovered, but there have been no other significant identifiable symptoms of the onset, if you know what I'm saying. So she went to a particular clinic out of Arizona and was told that she has Lyme and heavy metal problems. Well, there's probably some truth to that. I think a lot of us are living with at least heavy metal issues, and most of us are walking around, and from what I understand from the CDC, 95% of us, of the adult population, is walking around with at least one bacteria, problematic bacteria, whether it be Lyme or chlamydia or so forth. So they go dormant in the body. And so in my realm, when I talk about Lyme or I work with Lyme, I look at it as, because there's so many theories about what Lyme can do, all the breakdown that Lyme can lead to. But the bottom line is, how I see it, is it actually stimulates an autoimmune reaction, or prompts or influences or whatever, triggers the body to go jump into auto drive or autoimmune hyperdrive. So at any rate, and then the heavy metal thing, I think most of us are actually challenged with that at some level because of the amount of heavy metals in our atmosphere. I've talked about this as well. Environmental trauma is stifling. It's really throwing the body into survival mode. However, I'm rambling. With regards to this particular woman, I talk with her on a weekly basis, and she consistently reports paresthesia. Now, if you look at paresthesia, truthfully, there's some speculation as to what it is, but the source cause is unknown. They just don't know. And when I hear, I've experienced it, and in the way she describes her paresthesia, as if you've been laying on one part of your body for too long, and you wake up and you can feel it tingling. So there's circulation, but more importantly, there's nerve signaling going on because everything's kind of moving around, right? And the second you move, it stops. So at any rate, she's discouraged because she's got somebody getting married in the spring, and she really wants to have at least the use of her hands back, and which I can appreciate completely. And at the same time, trying to keep her in a position of thinking about this in a way that is positive. Not because I want her to be cheery, but because I really want her to understand that this is actually something that's working. It's not. I don't want her to feel limited. She's not limited. She has the mind-body connection is extraordinary. We've been able to demonstrate this. There's so many things that we cannot explain about the human body, about outer space. I mean, again, and so in her case, I've given her exercises to do, physical therapy exercises that she can do in her chair to work her hands to strengthen those muscles to actually help. They're trying to wake up, so let's wake them up. Instead of going, well, that's called nerve pain, so now we need to put you on nerve pain medication. I mean, neither one is right or wrong, okay? But if we think about this in a different context, a possibility rather than impossibility, as in something beneficial instead of something wrong. And so, like I said, as a human species, we can only explain things to the degree that we actually can comprehend them. And so understanding, when I hesitated, I didn't use that word understanding on purpose, because to me, understanding is understanding that we have no control over any of this, that this is part of our existence. This is part of the flow. And so with regards to these neutrinos, again, that's something that we cannot explain. We cannot explain how these things pass. I mean, as far as I know, we can't explain how they pass. And we want to say that no, the human body cannot detect it, even though it is passing through us. And I think about all the things like, auditory hallucinations, and with regards to schizophrenia, and for that matter, other disorders, or what's considered disorder like HPPT. These are these really? Is this something really wrong with the body, or is it just is the body? I don't even know how to explain this, because there's no explanation. I mean, the truth is, the question is, what is the explanation? There isn't any explanation. I will offer this much, that I don't see anything wrong. I understand living with some of the symptoms is uncomfortable. I mean, I can only imagine how uncomfortable it would be to be confined to a wheelchair and having to have people feed you. I can only imagine what it would be like to actually have hallucinations. I do understand what it means to, I do understand hypersensitivity. That much I can relate to when it comes to things like sensory processing disorder and autism. I do understand pain. I've been there. But are these things that are wrong, or are these just the body's reaction to what's going on in the environment? We talk about this all the time. Well, we don't, but scientists are. You can go over the internet and look for this stuff. But they'll image brains, and they'll go normal brain of a schizophrenic, brain of autism, brain with someone living with ADHD. We look at these brain. I mean, I've even in all of the coursework that I've taken in psychology and brain development, we can look at images of brains of a normal brain. We can look at brains of a let me back up a minute. Normal heterosexual brain. Then we can go into a homosexual brain, whether it be gay or lesbian. And then we can even get into the transgender brain. And what we recognize is that there's a difference in the structures. for that matter, we even recognize there's a difference in the structure when it comes to addiction. Okay? In autism, ADHD, schizophrenia, we recognize higher levels of activity in very specific areas of the brain. There's a change in the brain. Does this make it wrong? Why are we labeling one normal and one not so normal? We have over 70 million people on this planet. 1 in 59 people are being diagnosed with autism, which means their brain is being activated in a different way than somebody else's. And they've never tested my brain, so they're not testing everybody's brains. That'd be kind of expensive. But the point is there really something wrong? Or is this just the result of a change in the body due to our environment, due to the environment? What's more is in the universe, they talk about dark energy, dark matter, I'm wanting to focus on dark energy. And dark energy seems to be what moves, it's what creates this flow. It is what inspires movement in the universe, is this dark energy. That's the way I understand it. What I recognize about nature and what has been determined by scientists back in the early 1930s is that DNA has the ability to alter itself. We have an epigenome, which is consistently, responding to our current environment, but the DNA of the egg and sperm that formed me, it was altered. This is what they've been able to determine, that these things prior to conception are just changing, just minutely, just nano changes are occurring on these cells that end up creating plants and animals and humans. That's the reason why, even though there's similarities in a species, there are huge differences between the individuals. Huge. Even in identical twins, there are differences. So, and that comes more along the lines of the epigenome, but there are still differences because they were born of the DNA that changed before they were born. But this is the reason why siblings are different. So the point that I'm getting at is to create a level of understanding beyond our ability to comprehend. Because if we can't comprehend it, we walk around scratching our heads, but we tend to go towards the negative. We tend to say, well, that's not going to work. That's not possible. There's something wrong with this. There's something wrong with somebody who has auditory hallucinations or any kind of, what would be considered mental disorder, mental emotional. There's something wrong with this person. Why is there something wrong with that person? Why? Just because the brain was altered, the individual. See, this is what got me really excited the other day when I was talking to somebody. If this is what's happening in the DNA prior to conception, prior to germination, if this is what's happening, there is something beyond our comprehension that is influencing these nano alterations. Because like I said, the DNA has these segments on it called transponal elements. And they have the ability to relocate along the strand. And so there's changes that are occurring prior to our evolution, prior to us even getting here. And so, a long time ago, somebody said to me that, everything was created with intention. Whoever the creator is, whatever you believe the creator is, but this was all created with intention. And I couldn't wrap my head around that. Truthfully, at that point, I was like, why would God want to create someone like me? That was one of the legitimate questions. Why would, because I'm nothing, I won't go into all of that. But that's really a lot of the questions that came to my mind. Why? Why was I created with intention? And it wasn't until I developed some of my coursework that I came across this information regarding transponal elements. And I just sat in awe because there is something influencing these nano alterations Is it the dark energy that they talk about out in the universe? I mean, if neutrinos are flowing through us without us even knowing it, and flowing through the planet, how is it not possible that dark energy is also affecting us and also affecting these changes? And with that in mind, that would tell me that everybody who has been diagnosed with some sort of mental and emotional disorder or mood disorder, a better way to say it, whether you want to classify it as schizophrenia, autism, ADHD, bipolar disorder, OCD. I mean, we can go through the DSM-5 if you want to. Addiction. I mean, a lot of these things, I mean, in the case of addiction, I mean, yeah, well, as far as I'm concerned with regards to addiction, that is more environmental. But the individual themselves, obviously, as far as I'm concerned, had levels of sensitivity, sensory processing disorder, these things. What makes this wrong? I really feel like there's dark energy flowing through us, creating changes, creating us as individuals, and our human capacity to wrap our mind around that is not, it's not happening. Therefore, we box and limit, as opposed to celebrate the variations and allow each one to show up and allow each one to be the way they need to be. We don't need to be heavily medicating people. You know, we have this belief system that people with schizophrenia are dangerous. I mean, I know there's a lot of violence going on. I understand all of the issues with guns and mental health issues, but let me just say this much. With regards to all of that, as far as I've heard, again, I'm not there. I'm not in the individual's brain. I didn't witness it. I'm not one of the hands-on people, so I'm only speculating, as is everybody else is. These individuals were already on medications. These people were not living, and even if they were emotionally distraught, consider the fact that emotional trauma, is devastating to the body. The body will go into survival mode. It will cause changes within the brain. We've got to come to an understanding that there's nothing wrong with these people. We're not paying attention. We're not allowing. I mean, this gets really, really complex. I mean, it makes for great conversations, truthfully, because if we start to open up about how we're looking at this and stop looking at somebody who wants to sit in the chair and rock, because why? Because it is their way of soothing their nervous system. They haven't been given any other tools. You know, with the amount of distress that's in this world, and fear and lack and scarcity, and we're raising children in this environment, and they're already sensitive, and they're coming into this world as a result of the environment, and for that matter, the energy, the consciousness that's flowing through them prior to their conception, creating changes, and then the environment creating changes, and then we're bearing children who are facing and living with such high levels of sensitivity, and they're not getting the actual tools that they need. They're being judged. They're being considered less than. They're being boxed over here in the corner. They're being ignored. We do this to one another as adults as well. And I realize it's a big step to start looking at something and going, there's a reason for you. And no, I don't like the way you're acting right now. No, I don't feel safe. I mean, the thing is that every one of us would have to put our guard down. Every one of us. So I understand that I am speaking at this point on a large scale of unconditional love and, an epic shift in our mindset. And hopefully we'll get there. But in the meantime, we can start here. We can start with ourselves. We can start looking at ourselves and realize that there is nothing wrong. I was divinely created. This happened for a reason. This continues to happen for a reason. And it is in reaction to the environment. Because your DNA was changed before you got here. And then your epigenome continually alters itself as a reaction in response to what your body's been interpreting. It's an interpretation of the messages coming in. But you have to remember it's working. And you have to understand that there is a reason for you, and there is a reason why you're going through this. And all we have to do is, if we shift that and begin to think, think about things, question what you're being told. Question it. Not just by me, but by everybody. Again, I was telling somebody this the other night. Because they were going all political in my house, and it was like, you guys are not there in those brains, you're not in those people's heads, and you're not there witnessing anything. You're not seeing you're watching videos, and you're watching things and you're listening to and reading things that people are regurgitating. That's the reason why when I work with people, it's on an individual basis, because there is nothing out there that is going to tell me how to work with that individual. Nothing. I can get some kind of clue. I can see what they're looking at. When I talk about the way plant constituents affect the human genome, I can look at that. And the fact is I've actually altered the way I practice, because that genome is changing consistently. The level of assistance that body needs is stabilization. It doesn't need to be balanced. It's already seeking balance. It needs stabilization. It needs the relief to be able to function in a way that is optimal, not declining, the perception of decline. But again, no amount of information that they find out there that they studied in labs is going to tell me how to work with the individual. We have to be willing to be open to this. And we have to be willing to question everything we hear. Everything. And don't take anybody's word for it. Let yourself, go through an experience. Explore and take on what makes sense to you. Yes, I realize there's facts about this world. There are facts. If you see it, there's a fact. If you don't see it, then you don't know. You can only speculate. And so that's the reason why when I talk to people, and it frustrates them, because I think sometimes, because I want to, I will not. Because I talk to people all the time. Well, what would you recommend for this? What would you recommend for that? I don't know you. I don't know what's going on with you. I haven't heard the complete picture, because I don't know. And that took me a long time to get to that position of saying I don't know. And I'm not unwilling to explore. And I realize that there are facts. I realize that the cover of this book is purple. I realize that. I realize the color of my shirt is gray. I realize there are certain facts. And then there's things that we're speculating on. And when it comes to the things that are going on with your system, you're the expert in your body. And thinking that, there's a lot happening to you, and your body is doing everything it can to survive right here, right now. And you're going through what you're going through because you were divinely created. Because the whole purpose here is to expand into something much bigger than what we see, not shrink and limit ourselves. We're not here to, and the funny thing about it is I say that, and then I think about the number of people that have been handed limitations, like, oh, you're living with autism, go over here. Oh, you have spastic muscles, sit in a wheelchair and go over here. I realize what we've done. And I've people who have been crippled and disabled from accidents or from birth. I am extraordinarily in awe of those people who break free from those limitations. So anyway, I just looked at the time. I realized I need to check out. Please let me know what questions you have. Contact me, Tammy at synergessence.com. Please visit synergessence.com. I would love to be able to assist you. At this point, I charge for my blends, and if you want me to consult with you, it's by donation. I can promise you that you're going to get a lot more than you realize, because I'm devoted to people leading and feeling extraordinary. I'm devoted to that. We also have to rethink the way we look at extraordinary. But the fact is that we can feel our very, very best. And it just requires an understanding that some things just are. So anyway, synergessence.com. Like I said, I do charge for my blends. If you would like for me to custom formulate for you, I do ship. You get them within a couple of days of all of our dialogue. I'm limiting it. Ooh, I use limiting. I am keeping it to email and instant messaging. Because phone time for me, it gets to be, well, I work with Amish people, so I have to kind of juggle everything. So that's part of the reason why the consults, the emails, and so forth are by donation. And like I said, and then the oil blends there's a fee, but that's all on my website. And anyway, I would love to hear from you. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Tammy Davis 8 on both. All right, thanks you guys. Take care. Until later. Bye now.